Hello and welcome to Awful Commentary. Today I want to have a conversation that nobody really seems to be having, and that is a conversation about Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 is the latest in the Battlefield franchise by DICE, and it seems like it's not causing as much controversy as it should do. In fact, it's getting what seems to be unanimous support, which is odd for a new first-person shooter, especially when it's set in World War I. World War I is a setting almost entirely unique to the first-person shooter franchises. Call of Duty is started in World War II and Battlefield started in World War II, and they both worked their way forward into the modern day and now into the future. And after Call of Duty Infinite received an unprecedented number of dislikes, people were amazed by Battlefield trying to refresh the historical shooter. But what really amazes me is just how tasteless it seems. Now before I go any further, I know full well the kind of comments to expect from this video. I'm not the kind of person who wants to censor games, and I certainly don't condemn games like GTA for their violence. But there is a reason that so many games focused on World War II, and I think that reason's kind of simple. World War II suits the shooter franchise because there's pretty clearly defined good guys and bad guys. You can have mindless shooting fun against Nazis because, well, they're Nazis. World War II works for the same reason that the zombie shooting franchise does. Because you don't have to worry about the morality of your actions, the same way that when you play GTA, you play as a criminal. You always play as the bad guy, so when you run people over or go on a gun spree, then I'm a bad guy, what are you gonna do? And this is one of the reasons that Call of Duty moves forward in time, because now that there's fictional countries and empires and such, it doesn't matter when you shoot people, because they're not real people and they never were and they never will be. World War II really defined the century and gave us a generation of people that we consider heroes. But World War I wasn't about fighting for freedom. World War I wasn't good guys versus bad guys. World War I was trenches, mustard gas, rats eating your feet. It's not the same thing. There was no liberation in the First World War. There was only slaughter. And I'm not somebody that's been affected by this. I don't know that I have any family members who died during the First World War, but even so, it just seems questionable to me. Now, there's no doubting that the game itself looks incredible, the graphics look amazing, and unless we're talking about Star Wars Battlefront, DICE generally know how to please the shooter audience. But this raises concerns for me the same way that I guess Vietnam games did a decade ago. There wasn't glory in the First World War, that was just what the propaganda posters said. There weren't heroes, there were just victims. Those who went to fight and saw the horrors of war and then refused to fight were executed. People answered the calls of their country just to be slaughtered. Over 1 million people died in just the Battle of the Somme. Industrial methods of killing were invented solely for the First World War. Machine guns come from the First World War, tanks, chemical weapons. In fact, there's a moment from the trailer when gas falls from the sky and the character pulls down the mask over his face so that he doesn't breathe it in. Now, if it's chlorine gas, the way that the green cloud suggests, that man is going to survive with the mask on, but everyone who doesn't have a mask is going to choke to death. If it is mustard gas, then the mask will be ineffective because the filter won't work. As such, you will get chemical burns on the inside and outside of your body. But don't worry, with mustard gas, you probably won't die for days, maybe even weeks. But if it's phosgene gas, the most common in the entire war, you won't smell it, it's colourless, it'll just look like fog. Then, once it has hit you, it will take 48 hours for you to drown in the liquid that's built up in your lungs. To me, this seems as something that shouldn't necessarily be glorified. Perhaps you should look down at the people who are choking to death on the floor and think, oh fuck. Playing this game should not give you a fun user experience where you can let out some frustration. It should give you PTSD. Now, I'm aware that really more people died in World War II than did in the First World War. And I'm aware that massacres aren't something that are exclusive to this scenario. But from a British point of view, World War II involved daring do's to fight evil, whereas World War I involved hanging our own men for getting shell shock. World War II gave us D-Day, men sacrificing their lives, fighting to try and liberate Europe. The First World War gave us going over the top, where 60,000 men were killed at the Somme in a single day. The scars of the First World War changed Europe to an unrecognisable extent, and set the seeds for the next one. And the reason that shows like Blackadder were able to satirise being on the front lines is because of just how terrible it truly was. For me, there's a really delicate balance. Obviously, we've only seen a 1-minute trailer of this, so it's a little harsh to judge it already. But the way I think about it is, would somebody make a movie about this, in this style? Are movies made about heroes fighting valiantly in the Second World War? Yes. Are games made about that? Yes. Are movies and games made glorifying the actions of America and the UK during the Cold War? Yes. Are movies and games made about our current war on terror? Yes, but always with questions being raised. I, for one, am someone that skips the airport scene in Modern Warfare 2 because that's not something that I want to take part in. Are movies made about the First World War? Yes. Do they glorify it? Absolutely not. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see where Battlefront 1 draws the line. Which side do you play as? Do you play as both sides? How do they justify that? Certainly, I don't want to condemn anything from a 1-minute trailer. But in the UK, we're still holding centenary events for those men who died and gave their lives during the First World War. We don't wear the poppy to celebrate the actions of the people who died. We do it to remember them, to remember those who were taken from us long before they should have been. But what do you guys think about Battlefield 1? Do you think that it's one of the last wars that didn't have an ideological excuse, that maybe they need to be a little bit careful about what they do here? Or do you think a game is a game? It doesn't matter when it's set, just enjoy the experience. Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us on Awful Commentary. We hope to see you again soon.